My name is Vannaka and this is Slayer Drop Locked. The idea is simple. I can only obtain items by killing monsters on a Slayer task. This also means I cannot trade with any shops or pick up item spawns. For a full list of the rules and restrictions, check out the description of the video. Are you ready? Let's begin! Good day everyone, my name is Vannaka and welcome to episode 6 of Slayer Drop Locked. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, then it would be amazing if you did this. My dream goal is to get 50,000 subscribers and we're actually getting closer to this goal, so your help would be much appreciated. So today it's finally time for some magic training. I think this is really necessary to unlock some teleports so I can move a bit faster, but also to use spells like alchemy to turn items into gold and other useful spells that I can use. What you have to remember is that on this account I cannot buy runes from any shops or pick them up from item spawns, so it's really difficult to get runes. I can only get them by Slayer tasks or completing clue scrolls. Now I gotta say that magic training will probably only be difficult at the low levels because it's pretty difficult to get mind runes for example, but chaos runes and death runes are dropped way more often, so at the higher levels I will probably get more runes to train magic XP. Now I do have an earth staff but no water and air staff, so the goal is to get level 9 magic as quickly as possible so I can use the earth staff and save runes while doing earth strike. I will then probably keep using this spell and not go for fire strike because fire strike costs the double amount of air runes, which is a waste at this point. Alright, there's level 9 magic, we can now use earth strike. At the very end of the task we got ourselves level 10 magic, which is pretty nice, but of course still we have many more levels to train. Alright, well this is the perfect task to continue my magic training. At the very beginning of the task I got myself a clue scroll, but I needed a red cape once again, which I don't have yet. And there we go, level 13 magic. That means we can now use fire strike, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna stay with earth strike because I really need to keep an eye on my runes. I think I literally got like 6 Slayer enchantments in my bank now. That's pretty insane. Okay, so this is a pretty big level. I got 15 magic, that means I can now use bones to bananas, which basically means that for all the bones I have in my bank, I can turn them into bananas now if I need food. At a later level, this could even mean we can do bones to peaches if I can unlock that through the Mage Arena. And here is also a pretty big level, level 17 magic. We can now use wind bolt, which means I can use my chaos runes now to train magic instead of mind runes. This bronze bar drop really reminds me of my free-to-play Wilderness Iron Man back in the day. There's once again another clue, let's see if I can do it. So I got a Charlie the Tramp clue, and for some people it was still unclear if I can do these or not. Well, yes, but only if I can obtain all required items through Slayer. So if he asks me to smith an iron dagger I can do it, but this one, a cooked pike, unfortunately not. So here is another crucial magic level, 21. We can now use low level alchemy, and even though I can't buy too many things from shops in this game, money is still very important to have, and I will show you later in the video why. Alright, we're now out of runes. We got 22 magic, but that is not that bad considering this is the very first time we're training this skill. After all this magic training, I finished the task by using my rune scimitar, and after that I went back to Cresselia for a new task. Alright my friends, so here it finally is, the end task. This is probably the biggest upgrade that we can get on this entire account. It's better than the rune scimitar, it's better than whatever we have obtained before this, because this will change our account forever. As I've explained before in the series, I cannot go and chop trees to keep my logs in the bank. Same goes for mining and fishing. I can only use the tools for experience and not to keep these resources. But if I can never keep my resources, then it's going to be impossible to train construction, fire making or fletching or any other skills that require resources. And that is why in this situation the end task solves the problem of not being able to obtain logs. If you kill an ant, then it turns into an ant trunk, which you can chop for wood, and this way I would actually legitimately obtain the logs through Slayer, since I'm killing ants on a Slayer task. Now once I've obtained all these logs, I can go to the sawmill and turn them into planks to train my construction. And even though the sawmill is a shop, it is one of the exceptions that I put in my rules of this series. But of course that doesn't mean that this is going to be easy. So something that I noticed right away was that I was barely obtaining any logs. As you can see, I was getting some XP drops every now and then, but because my woodcutting level was still so low, I wasn't receiving any regular or oak logs. Now I did actually manage to get myself some regular logs just before the end trunk disappeared, but I did really have to train up my woodcutting more to get more logs. And of course that is no problem, I can go to regular trees to train experience as long as I don't keep the logs. To be completely honest, training woodcutting is not just good for getting better logs from ends, it's also great for the canoe system, because the higher my woodcutting, the better canoe I will have available. And of course this will speed up the traveling process, which is always nice. I didn't really know how the ends work exactly, so I decided I wanted to go for level 29 woodcutting max, so I wasn't able to chop any willow logs, because as you may know, willow logs are not useful for construction, they can't be turned into planks or whatsoever. So I killed another end, which took literally 5 minutes, and then I tried the same thing as before, chopped down the end trunk to see how many logs I would receive. And guess what? The very same thing happened. I got 2 regular logs once again and wasn't able to receive any more. Now on one hand I can be happy that I'm at least receiving something, but this is not really the way I expected it to go, so I decided to train even more woodcutting levels to see if this would help me. I decided to get level 42 woodcutting to unlock a new canoe, and this canoe can take you from Lumbridge all the way to Edgeville in one go, and that is actually pretty nice. So after 42 woodcutting, it was finally time for a third end attempt to see if we can actually get something this time. And yes, my friends, this is more like it. 12 oak logs and 6 regular logs from one single end. That is perfect. So the big end grind has finally begun. I had to kill 50 ends and chop them down, which takes incredibly long because only killing the end takes about 5 minutes, and then also have to chop down the trunk. So in total it took me about 5 hours to complete this entire task. But there is something that we cannot forget, because even though we are collecting these beautiful logs, that is not it. I also have to turn them into planks. And yes, that is completely allowed. The sawmill is an allowed shop in my rules, so I can make these planks. But using this feature is incredibly expensive. A regular log costs 100 points to turn into a plank, and an oak log costs 250. In total I got 82 regular logs and 394 oak logs, which means that in total this would cost more than 100k. And I know this is going to hurt, but the only way to get this money was by low alching my runite gear. But don't worry, these are all duplicates. I still have all these items in my bank, but I wasn't going to use these anyway, and this money is now crucial to train our construction, because this is needed to continue with the account. So I ended up with 133k, which is actually enough to buy all these planks. Now some of you may be wondering why the player-owned house is so important for our account. Well, it's actually very simple. When I started this account, I of course made the main rule that I can only obtain items from Slayer, but there are some exceptions, and one of them is that I can also use items that I've obtained through my own player-owned house. And this can unlock many upgrades for my account, ranging from a simple tool to train a skill to, for example, a portal chamber to teleport to a certain location. And the nice thing is that I can even justify why it's reasonable to allow this method of training my construction, because all the items that I use are obtained on a Slayer task, and that is all within the rules, so what I do is completely allowed. So I had finally turned all my logs into planks, and on the way I also got an experience lamp, which I decided to keep because you never know. And then of course I had to buy a house, because otherwise I cannot train my construction, so I brought my cash, bought a house for 1k, and we were good to go. I figured that the fastest way to travel to my house was by teleporting to the pest control minigame on the Void Knight outpost and then leave it to Port Sarim and go west. Luckily, construction training is very fast by itself, only obtaining the planks is a very painful thing to do. The goal is first to use all my regular planks to level 15 construction, so I can move on with the oak planks to get even more construction experience. In the Remington shop is a character called Files, and you can actually exchange your banknotes into regular items if you pay him 5 coins per note, which is not that expensive, so I decided to use that. So like I said, the goal was level 15 construction, but I realized that I needed one more plank in order to reach this goal. Now, this was actually very lucky that I saved up the lamp from the genie before, because thanks to that, I was actually able to level up my construction to 15 so I could use my oak planks. And this is where it gets really interesting, because with the oak planks I can build myself tool stores in my house, which gives me access to items that I've never had before. On level 15 construction, for example, I can build myself a tool store level 1, which will allow me access to a saw, hammer, chisel, and shears. The hammer and saw were already obtained, but the chisel, for example, is required for the Haunted Mine quest or to cut gems. And shears can be used to collect branches from trees that have grown with the farming skill. Now the tool store that I am the most hyped for is tool store number 2 at level 25 construction, because this unlocks a bucket, spade, tinderbox and knife. Now of course I already had a tinderbox, but the other 3 items will unlock a huge amount of content for me. A bucket, for example, was the very last item I required for completion of Priest in Peril, and this quest gives access to Mauritania. Thanks to the spade I can do many more clue steps now, and in the future even do brine rat tasks, but before this I will still need to complete Fremennik trials though. And of course a knife is used in the fletching skill, so we basically have unlocked the fletching skill as well now. We also got ourselves an oak larder at level 33 construction, and this gives us even more items, for example tea, milk, eggs and flour. These items are needed for the cook's assistant quest, and some of them are also useful for other quests. For example, the milk is used for biohazard or for the mini quest at Skippy. Then there's one more thing that we have unlocked, and that is the tool store 3 at level 35 construction. This gives us access to a brown apron, needle and glass blowing pipe, so basically all kinds of crafting supplies. Now I have to admit that when I started the series I kinda forgot to put the hide tanner in the list of shop exceptions, because I'm gonna need the hide tanner to turn my cow hides into leather so I can train my crafting, but this will be allowed. Now I gotta say that it feels really good that I can finally claim a bucket and a spade after playing over 100 hours on this account. It feels so great. I also got myself some milk, an egg and flour so I can complete the cook's assistant quest. Completing Cook's Assistant also opens up the way to Recipe for Disaster, but I don't think I can actually complete the quest, because for the beginning part of Recipe for Disaster I'm gonna need to make a special cocktail, and I don't think I can actually get these requirements, but we'll see in the future. Okay, so I want to quickly go back to the player-owned house for a bit to talk about it a bit more, because I do understand that it may confuse you what is allowed in this account and what is not, simply because there's so much content that we have unlocked by building this house. Of course, the number 1 rule on this account is that I can only use items that I have obtained by monsters on a Slayer task. But even before uploading the first episode, I already knew that I was gonna have to make some exceptions for the account, because only allowing Slayer items would just not be fun for the series at all. I figured that allowing items from the player-owned house was a very good thing for the series, because I don't just get good tools that will help me to train certain skills or unlock certain quests and areas, but it's also reasonable to justify why I can do this, because like I explained before, I can get all the materials to train construction from Slayer. So as you can see in this clip, I can make infinite breads now, which is not the best thing to do because it's very slow, but at least a way to obtain food. Alright, so that was a lot of theory crafting about my player-owned house, but that is something that is very important in this series, and one of the things I love the most. Thanks to the player-owned house, we have now obtained ourselves a bucket which we can use during the Priest Imperial quest to get access to Mauritania. The quest also requires 50 pure essence, and these items I have obtained by killing minotaurs on a Slayer task. Now to make sure you don't have any questions about me killing this monster here, I can kill monsters off task, guys, that is no problem, I just can't collect any loot. However, I can get quest-specific items that are obtained during the quest, like this key I get here. You can compare this to the Ghostpeak amulet that I got in the Restless Ghost quest. So this is finally the part where the bucket comes into play. I can use it on the well to get some water, and later we're gonna turn this into blessed water to continue with the quest. Alright, so let's now use that on the coffin. And here we go, my friends, we have completed the quest Priest in Peril. We now have access to Mauritania. That is incredible. We can now access a new Slayer Master and so much more content and creatures. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There's going to be much more content, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.